brought to you by WikiVidi.com. D.B. Cooper. D.B. Cooper is a media epithet popularly used to refer to an unidentified man who hijacked a Boeing 727 aircraft in the airspace between Portland, Oregon, and Seattle, Washington, on November 24, 1971. He extorted $200,000 in ransom, and parachuted to an uncertain fate. Despite an extensive manhunt and protracted FBI investigation, the perpetrator has never been located or identified. The case remains the only unsolved air piracy in commercial aviation history. While available evidence and a preponderance of expert opinion suggested, from the beginning, that Cooper probably did not survive his high-risk jump, the FBI nevertheless maintained an active investigation for 45 years following the hijacking. Despite a case file that grew to over 60 volumes over that time period, no definitive conclusions have been reached regarding Cooper's true identity or whereabouts. The suspect purchased his airline ticket using the alias Dan Cooper, but because of a news media miscommunication he became known in popular lore as D.B. Cooper. Numerous theories of widely varying plausibility have been proposed over the years by investigators, reporters, and amateur enthusiasts. The discovery of a small cache of ransom bills along the banks of the Columbia River in February 1980 triggered renewed interest, but ultimately only deepened the mystery, and the great majority of the ransom remains unrecovered. The FBI officially suspended active investigation of the case in July 2016, but continues to request that any physical evidence that might emerge related to the parachutes or the ransom money be submitted for analysis. Hijacking. On the afternoon of Thanksgiving Eve, November 24, 1971, a man carrying a black attaché case approached the flight counter of Northwest Orient Airlines at Portland International Airport. He identified himself as Dan Cooper, and purchased a one-way ticket on Flight 305, a 30-minute trip to Seattle. Cooper boarded the aircraft, a Boeing 727-100, and took seat 18C in the rear of the passenger cabin. He lit a cigarette and ordered a bourbon and soda. Eyewitnesses on board recalled a man in his mid-40s, between and tall. He wore a black lightweight raincoat, loafers, a dark suit, a neatly pressed white collared shirt, a black necktie, and a mother-of-pearl tie-pin. Flight 305, approximately one-third full, departed on schedule at 2:50 p.m. PST. Shortly after takeoff, Cooper handed a note to Florence Schaffner, the flight attendant situated nearest to him in a jump seat attached to the aft stair door. Schaffner, assuming the note contained a lonely businessman's phone number, dropped it unopened into her purse. Cooper leaned toward her and whispered, "Miss, you'd better look at the note. I have a bomb." The note was printed in neat, all-capital letters, with a felt tip pen. Its exact wording is unknown, because Cooper later reclaimed it, but Schaffner recalled that it indicated he had a bomb in his briefcase, and directed her to sit beside him. Schaffner did as requested, then quietly asked to see the bomb. Cooper cracked open his briefcase long enough for her to glimpse 8 red cylinders attached to wires coated with red insulation, and a large cylindrical battery. After closing the briefcase, he dictated his demands: $200,000 in negotiable American currency, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck standing by in Seattle to refuel the aircraft upon arrival. Schaffner conveyed Cooper's instructions to the pilots in the cockpit when she returned. He was wearing dark sunglasses. The pilot, William Scott, contacted Seattle Tacoma Airport Air Traffic Control, which in turn informed local and federal authorities. The 36 other passengers were told that their arrival in Seattle would be delayed because of a minor mechanical difficulty. Northwest Orient's president, Donald Nyrop, authorized payment of the ransom and ordered all employees to cooperate fully with the hijacker. The aircraft circled Puget Sound for approximately 2 hours to allow Seattle police and the FBI time to assemble Cooper's parachutes and ransom money, and to mobilize emergency personnel. Schaffner recalled that Cooper appeared familiar with the local terrain. At one point, he remarked, "Looks like Tacoma down there," as the aircraft flew above it. He also correctly mentioned that McCord Air Force Base was only a 20-minute drive from Seattle-Tacoma Airport. Schaffner described him as calm, polite, and well-spoken, not at all consistent with the stereotypes popularly associated with air piracy at the time. Tina Mucklow, another flight attendant, agreed. "He wasn't nervous," she told investigators. "He seemed rather nice. He was never cruel or nasty. He was thoughtful and calm all the time. He ordered a second bourbon and water, paid his drink tab, and offered to request meals for the flight crew during the stop in Seattle." FBI agents assembled the ransom money from several Seattle area banks, 10,000 unmarked $20 bills, most with serial numbers beginning with the letter L, indicating issuance by the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, and most from the 1963A and 1969 series, and made a microfilm photograph of each of them. Cooper rejected the military-issue parachutes offered by McCord AFB personnel, demanding instead civilian parachutes with manually operated ripcords. Seattle police obtained them from a local skydiving school. Passengers released. At 5:24 p.m. Cooper was informed that his demands had been met, and at 5:39 p.m. the aircraft landed at Seattle-Tacoma Airport. Cooper instructed Scott to taxi the jet to an isolated, brightly lit section of the tarmac and extinguish lights in the cabin to deter police snipers. Northwest Orient Seattle operations manager, Al Lee, approached the aircraft in street clothes and delivered the cash-filled knapsack and parachutes to Mucklow via the aft stairs. Once the delivery was completed, Cooper permitted all passengers, Schaffner and senior flight attendant Alice Hancock, to leave the plane. During refueling, Cooper outlined his flight plan to the cockpit crew, a southeast course toward Mexico City, at the minimum airspeed possible without stalling the aircraft approximately at a maximum altitude. He further specified that the landing gear remain deployed in the takeoff, landing position. The wing flaps be lowered 15 degrees, and the cabin remain unpressurized. Co-pilot William Ratachak informed Cooper that the aircraft's range was limited to approximately under the specified flight configuration, which meant that a second refueling would be necessary before entering Mexico. Cooper and the crew discussed options and agreed on Reno, Nevada, as the refueling stop. Finally, Cooper directed that the plane take off with the rear exit door open and its staircase extended. Northwest's home office objected, on grounds that it was unsafe to take off with the aft staircase deployed. Cooper countered that it was indeed safe, but he would not argue the point. He would lower it himself once they were airborne. An FAA official requested a face-to-face meeting with Cooper aboard the aircraft, which was denied. The refueling process was delayed because of a vapor lock in the fuel tanker truck's pumping mechanism, and Cooper became suspicious, but he allowed a replacement tanker truck to continue the refueling, and a third after the second ran dry. Thank you for watching. Brought to you by WikiVidi.com. Please like and subscribe below. Please like and subscribe below.